The gateway to hell wasn't hidden deep in the fiery pits of a mountain or guarded by terrifying beasts. Instead, it was located beneath the cobbled streets of a sleepy European town, and the only indication of its existence was a moss-covered stone door in a quiet alleyway. The stone door was large, with intricate carvings of what seemed to be souls intertwined in a dance of despair, forever trapped within the dance. The face of the door was cold to touch, and those brave enough to lean closer would hear faint cries of anguish and plea, almost as if they were distant memories of those who had ventured and never returned. Beneath this door was a seemingly endless staircase made of ancient stones that spiraled downwards into the abyss. A heavy and foreboding atmosphere suffocated anyone who attempted to descend. The stifling air smelled of sulfur, but the most unsettling part was the ever-present murmur. Soft, whispered conversations that never quite formed words but sounded desperate and pleading. The first visitor to the gateway was a man named Elias, a curious and audacious scholar. Elias had heard legends about the gateway and, believing them to be merely tales to scare children, he had set forth to discover its truth. He carried with him a lantern that flickered with an ethereal blue flame. The light from it seemed to pierce the darkness and made the murmurs grow louder. As he descended, the temperature grew hotter, and the murmurings became clearer. They were voices of regret, of sadness, of longing. Elias felt a weight in his heart as he realized these were the voices of souls trapped within the gateway, forever yearning to be free. Hours seemed like days, and just when Elias believed he had lost all sense of time and was trapped in this perpetual descent, he found himself facing an immense cavern. The cavern was illuminated by a fiery red glow, and at its center stood a colossal obsidian gate, adorned with the same carvings of the souls, but this time, the soul seemed alive, moving and writhing in torment. Before the gate stood a figure cloaked in shadow, its face obscured, but its eyes glowed a piercing shade of white. It stared at Elias, its gaze penetrating through his soul. "You seek the gateway to hell," it whispered, its voice echoing through the vast cavern. "But why?" Elias, summoning all his courage, replied, "I seek knowledge, the truth behind the legends." The figure chuckled, a sound that echoed like the cries of 1,000 souls. "Very few dare to venture here, and even fewer return. The gateway you see is not just a door to hell but a mirror to one's soul. The tormented souls you see are those who came before you, ensnared by their own darkness." Elias, though trembling, persisted. "I wish to learn, not to enter. Please, grant me this knowledge." The figure seemed to contemplate this for a moment. "Very well," it replied. "But every piece of knowledge comes with a price. Remember that." As Elias spent what felt like years in that cavern, he learned of the history of the gateway, the souls it ensnared, and the powers it possessed. The figure spoke of ancient civilizations that had tried to harness its power, of brave warriors who had tried to seal it shut, and of innocent souls who had stumbled upon it by chance. Finally, when Elias felt he had gleaned all he could, he turned to leave. But as he did, he noticed a reflection in the obsidian gate, a reflection of an older, wearier version of himself, his eyes filled with sadness and longing. He rushed up the staircase, driven by an overwhelming desire to leave this accursed place. And as he emerged into the daylight, he realized that while mere hours had passed in the world above, years had gone by for him below. Elias had learned the truth behind the gateway to hell. But as he walked through the streets of the town, now alien and unfamiliar, he couldn't shake off the haunting image of his reflection in the obsidian gate and the price he had paid for his insatiable curiosity. Years after Elias's haunting encounter with the gateway, the town had grown and modernized, but the legend of the mysterious stone door in the alleyway persisted. Stories were passed down through generations, evolving with every telling. Some said it was the path to great power, while others insisted it was the ultimate test of one's soul. Eleanor, a young woman with fiery red hair and an insatiable desire to unravel mysteries, had heard these stories since childhood. Inspired by tales of Elias's descent and return, she became determined to explore the gateway herself. Unlike Elias, however, Eleanor wasn't driven by mere knowledge, she had a personal mission. Her younger brother, Peter, had disappeared years earlier near the alleyway, and she believed that the gateway held the answers to his fate. Equipped with old journals, including the faded notes of Elias which had since been passed through the town's archives, Eleanor stood before the stone door. The murmurs she had often heard of felt intensely personal now. Among the cacophony of distant voices, she believed she could discern the faint call of her lost brother. Descending the stairway, the same stifling heat and sense of eternal descent that Elias experienced washed over her. But Eleanor pressed on, undeterred, her purpose clear in her heart. The lantern she held, unlike Elias's, was not just for light but was an heirloom said to reveal hidden truths. When she finally reached the cavern, the cloaked figure awaited, its glowing eyes fixating on her. "Another seeker," it intoned. "What do you wish from the gateway to hell?" Eleanor, taking a deep breath, replied, "I seek my brother, Peter. He's lost, and I believe he's trapped here." A soft laughter echoed in the cavern. "Many are lost here," the figure whispered. "But what will you sacrifice to find him?" Without hesitation, Eleanor held up her lantern. The flame within flared, illuminating the cavern in a brilliant light, revealing not just the tormented souls in the gate but also shadows of moments from the past. Among them, she saw a younger Peter, his face contorted in fear as he was ensnared by the gateway. The figure seemed momentarily disarmed by the lantern's power. "Very well," it said, its voice hinting at a mix of curiosity and respect. "You may search for him, but remember, time here doesn't obey the rules of the world above." With the lantern guiding her, Eleanor moved through the cavern, each illuminated shadow revealing another fragment of the past. She saw ancient ceremonies, sorrowful farewells, moments of great love and terrible betrayals. But among them, she also saw Peter's journey, his moments of despair, and his attempts to find a way out. Finally, after what felt like both moments and lifetimes, Eleanor found herself in front of a smaller, secondary gate, one that wasn't made of obsidian but of shimmering silver. And trapped within, looking much as he did the day he disappeared, was Peter. Without waiting, Eleanor approached the gate, but the cloaked figure materialized before her. To free him, it whispered, "You must take his place. That is the price." Eleanor looked into the eyes of her trapped brother and then back at the figure. "I accept," she replied, her voice unwavering. As Eleanor touched the shimmering gate, there was a brilliant flash of light. Moments later, Peter found himself outside the stone door in the alleyway, the daylight blinding him. Eleanor's lantern lay at his feet, its flame extinguished. Back in the cavern, Eleanor's form was now part of the shimmering silver gate, her face serene but eternally trapped. The cloaked figure, looking at her, whispered, "Your sacrifice is noble, but remember, every sacrifice has its consequences." While Peter returned to a world that had changed in his absence, the legend of the gateway grew even more complex. Now, tales spoke not just of a scholar named Elias but also of a brave sister named Eleanor, who traded her freedom for love. Generations passed, and the alleyway's stone door became more concealed, hidden beneath layers of urban development. Yet, its legend only intensified, drawing in seekers from far and wide. Among them was a descendant of both Elias and Eleanor, a young man named Samuel. Samuel grew up on stories of his brave ancestors. The scholar who sought knowledge and the sister who sacrificed everything for love. But more than fascination, Samuel felt a deep sense of responsibility. He believed that his lineage bound him to the gateway, and that it was his duty to free Eleanor and, in doing so, end the cycle that seemed to ensnare his family. With determination, Samuel delved into ancient texts, seeking a way to interact with the gateway without becoming its prisoner. His studies led him to an old ritual, said to have the power to free trapped souls. Guided by the tales and his research, Samuel stood before the concealed stone door. The murmurs and cries, familiar to those of his lineage, welcomed him. With a deep breath, he descended. The cavern, with its imposing obsidian gate and secondary shimmering gate, awaited him. The cloaked figure, seemingly anticipating Samuel's arrival, greeted him. "The bloodline returns. What do you seek now?" "To free my ancestor, Eleanor, and break this cycle," Samuel declared, holding out an intricately carved talisman, pulsating with a blue glow reminiscent of Elias's lantern. The cloaked figure hissed, sensing the power the talisman held. "You think you can defy the rules of this gateway?" Samuel, resolute, began chanting the ritual. The cavern echoed with his words, and the talisman's glow intensified. As he approached the shimmering gate, he could see Eleanor's trapped form, her face eternally serene. But as the ritual reached its climax, something unexpected happened. Not just Eleanor, but countless souls began emerging from both gates, their forms ethereal and filled with wonder. Among them was Elias, looking much as he did on the day of his descent. The cavern, which once reverberated with despair, was now filled with a harmonious hum, the sound of freed souls. The obsidian and shimmering gates crumbled, revealing behind them just the rock of the cavern. The cloaked figure, no longer menacing but seeming frail, whispered, "You have broken the cycle. The gateway is no more." Samuel, surrounded by the ethereal forms of his ancestors and countless others, nodded. It was time. Eleanor, her form gliding towards him, smiled. "Thank you," she whispered, touching the talisman before dissipating into the ether, free at last. Elias approached next, his gaze filled with wisdom. The cost of knowledge, the price of love, and the power of redemption. Our family's tale is complete, he said before fading away like the others. Emerging from the depths, Samuel found himself in the modern world once more. But the alleyway felt different. Peaceful. The stone door was gone, replaced by just another wall. The legend of the gateway to hell persisted, but no longer as a cautionary tale. Instead, it became a story of hope, sacrifice, and redemption. The tale of a family bound by fate and a young man named Samuel who finally broke the cycle.